So today, we're really digging into something interesting, maybe unexpected from a big recent wrestling event.
Yeah, we're focusing on that impromptu match, right? The Intercontinental Championship one.
Exactly. Dominik Mysterio versus Octagón Jr. at Money in the Bank.
And we've got a good mix of sources to work with here.
We do. And even some surprising details about how the whole event was produced and well promoted. It wasn't just a match in isolation.
Not at all. It came from this whole confrontation earlier in the day, and it happened during a broadcast that was just, well, packed with other stuff.
Stuff you might miss if you're just watching casually.
Exactly.
And these broader themes that honestly were kind of hard to ignore in the source material.
Especially one particular theme we'll get into later.
Absolutely. We're going to cover the brawl that started it all, some really specific moves in the ring.
And yeah, a pretty deep look at the sponsorships. The sources had a lot to say about those.
Okay, let's jump in. How did this match even happen? It wasn't on the original card, was it?
No, it wasn't. And what's really fascinating, based on the sources, is that it all started just hours before Money in the Bank at this other event called Worlds Collide.
The sources framed it as pretty significant, right? Not just some random pre-show thing.
Definitely not. Commentary and the promotion around it called it the first big event of this new partnership.
The WWE acquiring AAA partnership.
That's the one, AAA, the big Lucha Libre promotion out of Mexico. So Worlds Collide was supposed to be the first real showcase of that collaboration.
And it was streamed live on YouTube.
Yeah, WWE's YouTube channel. So accessible, but maybe not quite the main stage yet.
Okay, so Worlds Collide is happening, mixing WWE and AAA. What went down there that led directly to this Dominik Octagón Jr. match later?
Well, early on in that Worlds Collide broadcast, Rey Mysterio showed up.
The legend himself. But he was injured at the time, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. The sources mentioned he was out with an injury, so it was more like an honored guest appearance.
Right.
And during this appearance, Octagón Jr. came out and presented Rey with a mask.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the sources were specific. They described Octagón Jr. as one of Rey's biggest fans. It was framed as this moment of real respect.
From a rising lucha star to an icon he looks up to.
Exactly. Pure admiration, that's how the sources painted it. Octagón Jr. was actually set to wrestle right after that, kicking off the action in a 6-man tag match.
Okay. And Dominik Mysterio, Rey's son, was also there.
He was, at ringside, with Liv Morgan. Which, you know, given Dominik's full character, that immediately set something up.
Right. His Dirty Dom persona is pretty much built on disrespecting his dad.
Precisely. So Octagón Jr. goes and wins a 6-man tag match, looks good, gets the victory.
Establishes himself on this new platform.
But then, according to the sources, right after the win, Dominik starts getting into things with him from ringside.
Just like that. Didn't waste any time.
Nope. Dominik, playing that arrogant heel character, apparently cuts a promo right there, aimed at Octagón Jr.
And what did he say? Did he go after Octagón Jr. directly?
He did, but he also went right for the jugular, you know? Doubled down on the disrespect towards his own father, Rey Mysterio.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the sources say he specifically called Rey a deadbeat.
Wow.
Yeah.
At this event, celebrating a partnership with a lucha company, right after Octagón Jr. showed Rey so much respect, that's bold.
It's incredibly provocative, and that's the key, right? For Octagón Jr., who just had this moment honoring Rey, hearing Dominik talk about his own father like that.
He wasn't going to stand for it.
Exactly. The sources really emphasize this. Octagón Jr. took major exception. It felt like a genuine character reaction to a huge insult against someone he idolizes.
And that's what kicked off the physical stuff.
That was the spark. The verbal insult immediately led to this big brawl. Dominik, Octagón Jr. going at it.
Chaos at ringside.
Total chaos. Sources mention officials, other wrestlers rushing in, trying to pull them apart. It was heated, looked unplanned, really fueled by that disrespect.
And in the middle of all that chaos, Dominik makes his move.
He does. While they're being separated, Dominik just throws down the gauntlet, challenges Octagón Jr. to a match.
It's not just any match, though.
No, a match later that night at the main Money in the Bank event.
And he put something major on the line.
His Intercontinental Championship. Just like that. Declared he'd defend it against Octagón Jr. later that night.
That is quite a decision. How did commentary react to that?
They called it an interesting decision, according to the sources, which feels like a massive understatement, right, given how sudden it all was?
Interesting is one word for it. Seems reckless, maybe. But also, kind of perfect for his character.
Totally fits Dirty Dom. This whole sequence, it just perfectly sets up that dynamic the sources talk about. Dominik disrespecting the legacy, disrespecting his dad.
Trying to make his own name by tearing down the foundation.
Right. And Octagón Jr. is the total opposite, all respect and admiration for Ray. He's the perfect foil.
So Dominik challenging him, especially after Octagón Jr. showed respect to Ray, feels like Dominik trying to steal that spotlight.
That's how some analysis framed it, yeah. Like he's riding his dad's coattails to even be at Worlds Collide, but then trashing him.
Yeah.
And challenging Octagón Jr., who just earned his spot and showed respect, putting the title on the line on the big stage. That's peak arrogance.
It's a statement. I'm better than this guy you admire. I'm better than this whole AAA thing. I'll prove it tonight with my title.
Exactly. Raises the stakes, creates instant heat, and flows directly from that brawl. It's arrogance personified.
And wasn't there a video package before this match promoting something totally different?
There was, yeah. Which felt a little weird timing-wise, according to the sources. They aired this package about the World Heavyweight Championship match happening on Raw the next night, Jey Uso versus Gunther.
Recapping their feud?
Yeah, Jey winning at Mania, Gunther wanting the rematch. And it highlighted Jey getting involved in other stuff, like helping Cody Rhodes, suggesting maybe he spread too thin.
Okay. Standard hype package.
But the sources noted a production detail. After the package, graphics for the Uso-Gunther match came up, but commentary apparently said nothing over them, just silence.
Strange. Just let the graphics do the work. Shows the layers of production, I guess, even if the flow feels off.
Definitely.
Okay, so the fuse was lit at Worlds Collide. Challenge made, title on the line. Fast forward a few hours to Money in the Bank itself. What was the vibe for this sudden championship match?
Right, so we shift to the main show, and yeah, it was billed as an impromptu matchup for the Intercontinental title, born straight from that earlier fight. Added some real unpredictability to the card.
Who was on the call for this one?
Alicia Taylor did the ring announcing.
Okay.
And at the commentary desk, you had Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Wade Barrett. Their reactions definitely shaped how this whole thing was presented.
And Dominik's entrance. Sounds like he leaned right into the provocation, didn't he?
Oh, completely. He came out wearing a black Rey Mysterio Sr. mask.
Again, with the disrespect.
Exactly. In lucha culture, the mask is huge, right? It's identity, heritage, so wearing it is already loaded. But then he ripped it off and just threw it on the ground.
Oof. That's blatant.
Commentary jumped all over it, called it complete disrespect to the luchadors who paved the way.
So he's not just dissing his dad now, he's dissing the entire tradition that Octagón Jr. represents.
That's exactly how commentary framed it. Like, Dominik sees himself as the greatest luchador on the planet, doing AAA a favor by even showing up at Worlds Collide.
And when his dad gave some attention there, or when the brawl happened.
Right. In Dominik's twisted view, his deadbeat dad tried to upstage him and failed. So throwing the mask down is his backlash, his way of saying he's the star, not the tradition, not the legends.
It really feeds into that narrative of him trying to escape his father's shadow by burning it down.
It does, and it ties back to that question commentary asked. Why on earth would Dominik want to put his title on the line?
Right, why volunteer a defense like that?
The character answer. It's a power move, a statement about his dominance. He's saying AAA is okay, sure, fantastic, but not Dirty Dom fantastic.
Wow.
He even apparently suggested the rest of the AAA luchadors are basically fighting for third place globally because he's number one. The arrogance is off the charts.
Just pure heel confidence. Anything else notable visually during the entrance?
Couple of small things. The sources mention a fan sign in the background saying Def Rebel sucks.
Huh. Referencing the WWE music producers. As a bit of live crowd flavor.
Yeah. And of course, Liv Morgan was with him. Sources called her his great woman, Baby Cakes, the snarky tag champ. She's a key part of his whole act.
She plays that role perfectly. Okay, so entrance is done. But before the bell even rings, the sources noted something else was already very apparent. Sponsorships.
Oh, yeah. And this is a theme that just runs right through the coverage of the whole event. It started even before this match officially began.
How so?
The match itself was presented in part by Cricket.
A phone company.
Yep, identified as a phone company. And commentary immediately followed up, plugging their fast and powerful nationwide 5G coverage, just seamlessly woven into the match intro.
A sponsor plug for a match added just hours before. All right, so the scene is set. The backstory of the characters, the sudden stakes, the sponsorship starting to pop up. Let's get into the match itself. What happened in the ring during those reported 4 minutes and 55 seconds?
Right, so officially, WWE Intercontinental Champion Dominik Mysterio with Liv Morgan versus Octagón Jr. from AAA.
And physically, a bit of a difference here.
Yeah, one source pointed this out. It's rare, but Dominik was actually the bigger guy in this match, listed around 200 pounds to Octagon Jr.'s 185, a slight size edge for Dom.
Okay, bell rings. How does it start?
Sources mention an early feeling out process, but commentary apparently felt right away it didn't feel good for Dominik.
Meaning Octagon Jr. took control early.
Seems like it. One report called Octagon Jr. a blur from the word go. Just immediate speed and agility.
And that style connected with the crowd.
Instantly. He hit a crossbody early, then this really cool spinning head scissors takeover that sent Dominik flying into the ring.
Taking the fight outside right away.
Yeah, and Octagon Jr. kept the pressure on. He hit an Asai moonsault to the floor, the one where they bounce off the ropes backwards.
He doesn't move.
Looks great, apparently. Yeah. His aerial game was on point.
Sounds like a highlight reel just waiting to happen. What other specific moves did the sources mention for Octagon Jr.?
Oh, a whole bunch. Thrust kicks to the body, the tornillo, that corkscrew move. He hit an enziguri from the apron twice. A flying corkscrew arm drag. A super kick. He hit a twisting splash out of the corner for a 2 count. Also a slingshot corkscrew splash, again for 2.
Really putting the pressure on getting near falls.
Definitely.
That's an incredible amount of offense packed into less than 5 minutes.
It really showcases his lucha style. Commentary kept saying he looked great, calling him that blur. They said he had the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand.
And commentary was surprised by the crowd reaction.
One commentator mentioned it, yeah. Felt like sometimes the WWE crowd needs more introduction to new guys, but Octagon Jr.'s talent just immediately won them over, which is a huge credit to him.
Absolutely. So Octagon Jr. is flying around, looking amazing, crowds behind him. How does Dirty Dom counter this? What were his tactics?
Pure heel tactics. Classic Dominik. He managed to roll Octagon Jr. back in after one dive. Then he used that old school spot, crotched him on the top rope.
Ouch. Always effective.
And then he did something really disrespectful. While Octagon Jr. was stuck there, Dominik tied his mask to the bottom rope.
Tied his mask. You said how important the mask is. That's a major insult in Lucha Libre.
Huge insult. Tampering with the mask like that is designed purely to get heat, to disrespect the tradition. And while Octagon Jr. was tangled, Dominik apparently stomped on his head and chest.
Adding injury to insult. Literally.
Exactly. And he wasn't done showing off. He posed for the booze, then threw his towel or shirt or something right at the AAA group sitting at ringside.
Targeting Octagon Jr.'s allies, too. Just trying to provoke everything.
Total provocation. Once he had control, he slowed it down. Ground and pound attack. Sent Octagon Jr. to the corner.
Did he try any of his dad's moves?
He tried the Three Amigos, yeah. But Octagon Jr. blocked it, showed some fight. Dominik did hit the Michinoku driver for a 2 count.
Octagon Jr. kicked out.
He did. So Dominik went back to basics, drop-kicked Octagon Jr. onto the middle rope, setting up his own finish.
The 619?
Yep, he went for it. But Octagon Jr. dodged the first attempt. One commentator apparently called it the slowest-looking 619.
Even the commentary noticed.
They did, and right after that miss, Liv Morgan gets involved.
The classic ringside interference.
She jumped up on the apron, created a distraction for Octagon Jr. just for a second.
But a second is all it takes.
Exactly. Dominik capitalized, hit that drop kick to the ropes again, this time setting it up perfectly.
And then the 619 connected.
It did. Sent Octagon Jr. reeling. Dominik went straight up top.
Frog splash.
Hit the frog splash, covered him. 1, 2, 3.
And that was it. Dominik retains the title.
Dominik Mysterio gets the win via pinfall.
Yeah.
Retains the Intercontinental Championship.
All thanks to some heel tactics and that crucial distraction. And the official time again.
4 minutes and 55 seconds.
4 minutes, 55 seconds. Wow.
Huh?
That is really short for a title match on a PLE.
It is. And yeah, that length, or lack thereof, was a big topic in the post-match analysis from the sources.
Let's get into that. What were the different takes on the match quality, given how short it was?
It was definitely mixed. Some felt, solid match, considering the circumstances. Impromptu, short notice.
But others were less impressed.
Yeah, quite a few felt it was just too short, that it didn't really get out of any kind of gear. Basically, it didn't have time to build into anything significant.
Didn't add much to the show overall.
That was the feeling from some analysis, that it would have benefited from being a little bit longer, especially to let Octagon Jr. shine more.
So the context really hurt his perception.
Pretty much. One take was basically, look, it was about as good as you could hope for, under 5 minutes, announced 3 hours beforehand, acknowledging the limitations.
And did it succeed as a showcase for AAA?
One comment specifically said it probably didn't do much to entice people into watching AAA, suggesting it needed more time to really sell that style and talent to the WWE audience.
Okay, so mixed feelings on the match as a whole, largely due to the time constraint. But what about Octagon Jr. individually? How did he come across?
Overwhelmingly positive on that front. Everyone seemed to agree he looked great, praised his speed. That blur from the word go description came up again.
High praise.
Yeah, one commentator even said it was an honor just to be in the building watching him. So despite the short match, he clearly made a fantastic impression.
That's great to hear. And Dominik, how was his role perceived?
He was seen as the perfect foil for a luchador like Octagon Jr. His character work, insisting he's the best, disrespecting the tradition, it just works.
He plays that part well.
And commentary noted he's gotten better at bridging that gap between American and lucha styles. Called it actually impressive, considering his earlier struggles.
So, acknowledging his improvement as a performer, even while playing the villain.
Right. One commentator, even jokingly or maybe hyperbolically, called him the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time, just leaning into the heel persona.
And the finish with Liv Morgan.
Commentary highlighted that as Dominik doing what he does best, using the distraction, hitting his moves, and basically teaching AAA and Octagon Jr. a little lesson in how Dirty Dom handles business.
Reinforces his character. Wins by any means necessary.
Exactly. It ties it all together.
All right, let's bring in Dave Meltzer's take on this match. First off, the rating Meltzer gave it.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly glowing.
No, not at all. Came in at 2 stars. In his system, well, that basically means it wasn't seen as a particularly strong match. Not much impact.
Right. And the main critique, it seemed like it went beyond just, the moves in the ring. He seemed focused on the why.
He was, yeah. A big point was just, what was the purpose of this match? Like in wrestling, ideally every match pushes a story forward or builds a character or achieves something. And saying it lacked purpose, that's a pretty big knock. It suggests that the match just felt kind of aimless within the show.
He did mention the build-up, though, the pre-match angle on the AAA show. There was context, right?
Yeah, he noted that. Doing an angle, a segment to build hype on that earlier AAA Worlds Collide show, that was seen as a positive step. Good for anticipation for this crossover thing.
Okay.
But despite
the execution just didn't land, according to him, in a very specific way.
Exactly. The review flat out said the match basically told people that AAA is the minor leagues.
Ouch.
Yeah. Ouch is right. That's really harsh. And it makes you wonder, how promotions like AAA get presented when they work with a bigger stage like WWE.
So what was it about the match that made him feel that way? Was it detailed?
Not really beyond that overall lack of purpose thing. It suggests maybe the presentation or just the feel of the competition didn't seem equal. He also mentioned a specific in-ring detail, Octagon Jr.'s mask.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
Just noted that Octagon getting his mask tied in the ropes, it's actually like a pretty common spot for Octagon Jr. It's a small thing maybe, but if you watch a lot, you notice it. Maybe signals it's a bit repetitive.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting and kind of goes against the grain for Dominik. Meltzer pointed out the fans were actually cheering Dominik.
Yeah, that observation it's fascinating, isn't it? Because Dominik, he's top heel stuff in WWE, always gets booed massively. So for him to get cheers here, it just cuts completely against that. It suggests the live crowd in that moment had a totally different vibe. Maybe they just found him entertaining, even if the match itself got critiqued.
It adds this whole other layer, doesn't it, to how you understand a wrestling show. It's not just the expert review, not just the planned story, but that live crowd element, always unpredictable.
Absolutely.
Any immediate follow-up shown after the match?
Just Dominik and Liv hitting the win, soaking up the booze. But one source did mention a backstage bit later with Dominik.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He apparently acknowledged that things didn't go my way today at Worlds Collide.
Interesting. So even though he won at Money in the Bank, he's admitting the earlier brawl maybe wasn't ideal for him.
Seems like it. Maybe the brawl got out of hand, or he didn't come out looking as dominant as he wanted, so the win later was maybe more important for him to regain control of his narrative.
And you said that backstage segment leads us into the other big theme.
Yes. That whole idea of how business gets handled and backstage scheming brings us right to the topic that the sources just could not stop discussing, the product placement.
Ah, yes, the sponsorships. You said it was everywhere.
It felt like it reading these reports. It wasn't just background noise. It was front and center. And that Chad Gable segment you mentioned earlier, perfect example.
But Gable, backstage with the Creed brothers, planning for the ladder match.
Exactly. He's scheming to help his buddy, El Grande Americano, who is actually Gable himself in a lucha mask, right?
Part of his character gimmick?
And his plan involves using, wait for it, the official Fireball Money in the Bank ladder.
The official ladder. Sponsored by Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
You got it! They showed a bright red ladder, Fireball logos plastered all over it. Commentary immediately jumped on it, calling Fireball the official shot of bad guys.
Wow. Branding the actual object they use in the match.
Directly. And it wasn't just the visual. Gable tells the Creeds, put this thing under the ring somewhere where Grande can find it. Comprende?
Setting up a spot for later in the match.
But then he adds, make sure you tell me too, which got a laugh. And there was even a bit where one of the Creeds didn't know what Fireball was, and Gable had to explain, it's cinnamon whiskey.
So the dialogue, the humor, it's all revolving around the sponsored ladder.
Completely. Commentary had fun with it too. Look at that thing. What is Fireball, though? And then the explanation. They called it blatant product placement.
Did they question how easy it would be to find under the ring?
Yeah, one commentator joked about that. Like, how hard could it be to find the bright red whiskey ladder if you know where it is?
Okay, so the Fireball ladder is a very memorable, almost absurd example. But it wasn't the only one, right?
Oh, not by a long shot. The sources pointed to the Cash App logo being right there on the Money in the Bank briefcases. The prize itself was branded.
The thing they're all fighting for has a sponsor logo.
Yep. And they also ran a full Cash App ad during the show with Big E and Jey Uso talking about getting paid early, savings, all that.
Standard commercial, but reinforcing the partnership.
And they mentioned past examples, too, like the Slim Jim table from another event. Same idea, branding the objects used in the spots.
So briefcases, ladders, tables, plus the usual ads.
Yeah.
It really was pervasive.
It led to this whole commentary discussion about it. The feeling was there isn't anything that this company will not brand, just a sense of inevitability, maybe?
And they started brainstorming other possibilities.
They did. Kind of jokingly, but maybe not entirely. Sponsored steel chairs, kendo sticks, fire extinguishers.
Common wrestling props.
Even the ring bell. Joked it could be the Blue Chew bell.
Oh my God.
Barbed wire came up. How do you brand barbed wire? Give Mark Shapiro an hour, was the response.
Mark Shapiro, the TKO president, implying he'd figure it out.
Yeah. A Home Depot sledgehammer for Triple H was another one.
Taking wrestler-specific items and imagining sponsors.
And a really specific one. Speculating Shapiro might want Mr. Iguana for a Geico ad, maybe on the iguana itself.
It's niche. But it shows how far their minds were going. Anything could be branded.
Exactly. They compared it to UFC, which has a lot of branding, but especially to Formula One.
F1 cars are covered in logos.
Right. Any little space they can fit a logo onto something, they will jam that logo in. That was the comparison. WWE seems to be pushing those boundaries now.
But there was an interesting point about why it might work, or at least feel less jarring, in wrestling specifically.
Yeah, that was a fascinating bit of analysis. The idea that wrestling's inherent corniness, its theatrical nature, might make it an easier digestible place for this kind of thing.
How so?
Because it's already a spectacle, maybe the over-the-top branding just fits in. Like the Fireball ladder, the reaction isn't outrage. It's more like, oh, look at that crazy thing. What is it? Oh, cinnamon whiskey. It almost becomes part of the show's fabric.
So the line between performance and advertisement gets blurrier, but maybe in a way that feels okay within the wrestling world.
That was the argument presented. But it definitely sparked debate among the commentators themselves.
About their own role in this.
Yeah. One felt like they were being asked to review ads, basically. That the entire product just feels like it's one giant commercial.
A sense of being overwhelmed by it?
Maybe. That same person felt like they were losing the battle with consumerism, but the counter was also strong. We have no way around it.
They have to describe what's happening.
Exactly. If there's a Fireball ladder, you talk about the Fireball ladder, it's the factual reality.
Understandable. Was there any defense of the practice?
There was an acknowledgement, not faulting them for trying to pay the bills, like TV shows have commercials, but still that hesitation. There's a point at which suggesting maybe it could go too far, even if they don't know where that point is.
The tension between business reality and artistic or journalistic integrity, maybe.
Something like that. But there was also a positive spin offered, framing it as proof of concept. WWE showing what they can do under TKO, putting logos on favorite inanimate objects, and noting that despite online negativity about these ideas beforehand...
Like rumors of sponsored gear?
Exactly. The observation was that in execution at the live event, seeing the branded ladder or briefcase, there were no complaints at all from the crowd.
Interesting. So the online backlash doesn't always match the live reaction.
Apparently not in this case. They also brought up Meltzer, speculating about logos on tights becoming common and that Brock Lesnar already did it. So this Money in the Bank event felt like maybe the next big step in that direction.
It really sounds like the sponsorships were a major narrative thread running through the whole event coverage.
Unavoidable, based on these sources.
Okay, so beyond the match and the branding, what other bits and pieces from the event did the sources highlight, just to round out the picture?
Well, there were the usual ads for upcoming WWE stuff, very important for business.
Like what?
Fanatics Fest NYC was plugged, that big fan convention, and a whole series of events in Atlanta for July.
Multiple shows in one city.
Yeah, NXT Great American Bash, a Saturday night's main event, and the all-women's PLE Evolution on July 13th. Big push for Atlanta.
And tied to that, they promoted premium packages.
Yep. On location, the official hospitality partner showed aerial shots near the stadium in Atlanta, encouraging fans to buy those upgraded experiences. Another revenue stream.
Makes sense. Do they include any non-wrestling, non-business segments? Community stuff?
They did. There was a segment about the Los Angeles wildfires from back in January.
Oh, right. Those were devastating.
Yeah. The sources mentioned the destruction, homes lost, businesses, even fatalities. A very serious real-world issue.
And WWE highlighted as a specific family.
The Thomas family, Barbara Thomas and her 4 sons, lost their home and school. They were guests at the show, met on the Countdown show earlier. WWE positioned it as part of their support efforts for families affected.
That's a nice touch, bringing the community into the event.
And there was that specific anecdote about LA Knight on the pre-show.
What happened there?
He gave the family a replica WWE title belt. Asked one of the boys, his favorite wrestler kid, says CM Punk.
Uh-huh. Not LA Knight.
Nope. But Knight, being smooth, promised to get official CM Punk plates put on the belt for him. A cool, genuine moment.
That is pretty cool. Any other big sponsorships mentioned?
Just DraftKings getting a plug, presented in part by Money in the Bank, urging people to download the app, use the code WWE for a free pool, chance to win prizes.
Tapping into that sports betting fantasy sports market.
Another common partnership these days.